Dr. Bryn Austin joins the Warriors. She is professor in the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences, Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and in the Department of Pediatrics, Harvard Medical School. Bryn is the director of the Cross-Institutional Strategic Training Initiative for the Prevention of Eating Disorders, a public health incubator based at Harvard School of Public Health and Boston Children's Hospital. Plus, Dr. Bryn Austin is a board member with the Eating Disorders Coalition. We might refer to that as EDC. Please learn more, follow, and support the work of Dr. Bryn Austin and the Eating Disorders Coalition, EDC. The website is eatingdisorderscoalition.org. Also on Twitter, I don't know, Bryn, I think they're calling it X now, ED Coalition on Twitter. Welcome to the Warriors. That you have so many incredible, wonderful things you're working on. I hope I covered a few of them. If I left something you want to stress, out, please add it. But welcome to the Warriors.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I don't even know where to begin. First and foremost, I want to thank you publicly for working on all of this. It's a critical and crucial subject matter. And I think, Bryn, most people do not understand much about eating disorders. I personally know a lot of people over the years that if their child or a family member suffers from any of this, they kind of are embarrassed and they hide it. And I just remember two of my friends, different friends that didn't know each other, hush, hush about their daughters in particular. So I think it's time we really have to keep raising awareness. We need more media attention. We need everybody to understand what is going on, what to look for, how they can help themselves, their child, their families. So let's just jump in. Would you agree with everything I just said?
Absolutely. 100% agree. People don't understand just how serious eating disorders are. The truth is, eating disorders are common, they are deadly, and they are expensive. Eating disorders are actually much more common than most people realize, and they affect people of all genders, race, ethnicities, sexual orientations, ages, body sizes. Nearly 30 million Americans, or almost 9% of the population, will have an eating disorder at some point in their lifetime. And that is nearly 2 million children alive today who will have an eating disorder before they are 20 years old. Eating disorders are also more deadly than almost any other psychiatric condition and kill over 10,000 Americans every year, or one person every 52 minutes. I mean, think about that. That's every 52 minutes, someone loses a loved one from this preventable and treatable condition. It's needless deaths we're seeing every year. Eating disorders are also very expensive. Eating disorders cost the U.S. economy nearly $65 billion every year. And this rivals other very serious conditions. Eating disorders are on par in the cost to the economy. For individuals and loved ones, they are bearing the bulk of these costs. 24 billion of that total 65 billion is being borne by individuals and their families. It shouldn't be this way. Family members are needing to provide 6 weeks of unpaid care for loved ones. Of course, people want to take care of their loved ones, but we need more support for families and communities and individuals struggling with an eating disorder.
Bryn, this is so shocking to me. Wow. I go way back. I go back to the Karen Carpenter days, and I was young, but I remember thinking this is so strange. I remember seeing her on something on television, like a holiday special or something. And I just remember, and again, I was young, I didn't know. And I thought she looked very odd to me. I just remember thinking that. Not too long after that, we heard about Karen Carpenter. And then we really haven't heard that much, I think, in my opinion, in the media or from other, influencers. But we're going to get into that. But before we start, I got to ask you, let's hear a little bit about you, Bryn Austin. What do you want to share about yourself and why so passionate about all of this?
Well, I appreciate your bringing up Karen Carpenter, a tragic story. And at the time, there was almost no support for someone like herself struggling with an eating disorder. She was really almost on her own at that time. We've had a lot of advances since then in offering care for people. But as you point out, there hasn't been enough attention to this. And I think part of the reason is because the stereotypes about eating disorders have been so sticky. that sticky, to use the term of the Heath brothers, who had that very illuminating book Made to Stick, which is about how do bad ideas, wrong ideas get stuck in the public consciousness. Well, around eating disorders, we've had some stereotypes that have been really, in the end, very dangerous, in that they keep us from doing the work that we need to do and getting people the help that they need. The truth is that eating disorders affect people of all genders, all body sizes, across the full range, and they can be so deadly.
I want to let's break it down for the listener who's just hearing about this, perhaps for the first time, doesn't really understand. Explain the definition of an eating disorder.
There's a wide range of types of eating disorders, but the ones that are most talked about and people probably most familiar with are anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and binge eating disorder. Anorexia nervosa, where people are restricting what they're eating. And what most people don't realize is actually people across the whole weight spectrum can be affected by this. There's the stereotype that it affects only people at the very low end of the weight spectrum, but in fact, we see the same kinds of harmful behaviors and harmful consequences across the whole weight spectrum. Bulimia nervosa is also a commonly known type of eating disorder, but it's binge eating disorder actually that is by far the most common and affecting all groups. And this is one where people can feel out of control around food. And this is physiological. This is a psychological illness. It is not about willpower, which is a big myth in this country. This is a serious psychiatric condition that we need to get people into care.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to get into that. It's psychiatric condition. And I am by no way a doctor, claim to be, or anything. I just remember with two friends in particular telling them, this is a lot of a psychiatric, but they didn't want to hear about it. But we'll get into that in a little bit. There's a lot of denial going on in all of this. Okay, now, what do you want to share about yourself? Why did you, whatever you want. I'm just always curious what makes somebody tick or what makes somebody want to study or be involved with what they're doing. I think it's so great what you're doing. I am just thrilled we're able to speak about this. What gets you going with all of this? Like, what happened?
So my work is in public health, which people are more and more familiar with now because of the pandemic. We're folks who are focusing on health and making communities healthy, but not one at a time. We're looking at the community level, the state level, society level, as opposed to a physician, nurse who are working with people one-on-one. So it's the public health professionals behind the scenes who are looking at how do we make whole communities healthier. Well, I started in the field of public health a few decades ago. And at the time, I realized a real gap in the education happening in public health schools around eating disorders. It was peculiar. Other mental health conditions, lots of physical health conditions were being taught about and people learning how to help their communities around these other health issues. But eating disorders almost never got brought up. So with that, I decided I'm going to focus on this. I see it in my community. I know this is a need. People just don't recognize yet how important it is and what an impact it's having. So that's what led me to create the organization I lead now, Striped, the Strategic Training Initiative for Prevention of Eating Disorders. I refer to it as a public health incubator. With that, what I mean by that is that we're always looking for new strategies, ways to bring in public health approaches, so really tried and true public health approaches to address health problems and bring it to eating disorders to advance prevention. With Striped, we work across many disciplines and different kinds of areas of society. We work with community groups, we work with policymakers, we work with economists and lawyers and all kinds of folks, and of course, other scientists. Our mission is to train the next generation of public health professionals and clinical health professionals to harness the power of public health to prevent eating disorders and related problems with food, weight, and appearance. And we strive to create a society where girls, boys, and people of all genders can grow up at home in their own bodies.
I love that. You mentioned prevention. I just have to say, Bryn, everything I work on, all these different human trafficking, all kinds of issues, I'm really focusing a lot now on the eating disorders. It's about prevention and teaching, as you pointed out, the next generation, our youth. I'm sick of the just patching up. Do you know what I'm saying? Because that does not solve. It sounds so simplistic, but it doesn't solve anything. I'm all about intervening, education, raising awareness, prevention, and this is what is needed. Now I have to get into the internet, the role of the internet, the landscape. There's so many things to cover, whether it's the whole COVID period. We have a well-documented youth mental health crisis going on, seems to be all escalating as far as I can see. The role of the internet. Now, there were, I think it was within the last year, reports of teen girls in particular learning, watching different videos on TikTok and things like that about eating disorders, and they were, rising. It kind of was in the news for a little bit, and then it just disappeared, like a lot of things. Tell us all about that. What can you share about the role of the internet in promoting all of this?
Well, worry has been increasing for years, and clinicians, parents, young people have been sounding the alarm for years about what's happening on social media. And as some of colleagues of mine who are clinicians working with young people with eating disorders fully a decade ago, who had the young people were coming into their offices and describing to them what they were seeing on social media and what kind of really toxic content was being pushed out to them by social media. So in the eating disorders community, people have known for a long time that this is not a safe space for young people and that they're being exposed to worse and worse risks online. But it's more recently, and I would pin it to the fall of 2021, when whistleblower Frances Haugen from Facebook testified before Congress. As folks may remember, Frances Haugen had worked in big tech and at the social media platforms for years. She was at Facebook, and one of her roles was safety. But her warnings and her team's warnings were ignored again and again and again by the higher ups at Facebook, as she has testified before Congress. Well, when she testified before Congress 2+ years ago, she put the mental health of young people, and particularly girls, and body image front and center. And she talked very concretely about the way that social media is harming girls and young people of all ages. That was really a milestone moment for the eating disorders community and social media, and raising awareness about how serious this is. Since then, other studies have been done showing just when a young person, let's say a 13-year-old, signs up for some of these social media platforms, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, or some of the others, studies have found that it can be within minutes until really toxic eating disorder related or body image related content is getting pushed to them. And then other kinds of toxic content around suicide, substance use, self-harm. This is, you may wonder, and any listener may be wondering, why would this be happening? Well, the social media platforms use algorithms, that's just sophisticated computer codes designed to push certain content to users to keep them on longer. And what they know is that the more extreme the content is, surprising, disturbing, that keeps people on longer. Now, why would the platforms want that? It's because every additional second, minute, hour that a user is online, that's money in their pockets. They're selling our attention, and they're selling the attention of America's young people who are using social media. It's all about profit for the platforms, but harm and crisis now, mental health crisis for young people in this country.
I'm glad you brought that up, because people will say to me really on a daily basis, why is all this happening? Why is this allowed? And I'll say the answer, money. Follow the money. I don't even like to say that, but that is actually the truth. Francis had put out a tweet or an X, I'm not sure, Bryn, what they're calling it today, Twitter X, I'll call it, on the 2-year anniversary. And she actually, and it really made me sit up and think, and it was not that long ago. And she said, I testified 2 years ago and nothing much has happened. And I thought to myself, we got to bring Frances back and have her back on Capitol Hill and refresh everybody's memories. However, I disagree. I think a lot actually has happened, because in the work I do, more people are asking questions, more people are aware, more people want to know what to do. So that's my next question. If a parent or a caregiver or a grandparent, because Bryn, I've also learned recently as I travel across the country, the family unit is made up of all different types. You can't just say parents anymore. I know a family, it's the two older siblings raising the three younger ones. So I like to, it's everybody, these family units. What would you suggest somebody do if they think their daughter or their son, has an eating disorder? They see, what are some of the indicators and what kind of take action should they do?
Yes. Well, for anyone, guardian, family member, friend who is worried that a loved one has an eating disorder, or if someone's worried about themselves, I urge you to contact the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. They have a national hotline. I'll give you the number, but I know you'll be able to repeat it also
Yes.
on your site. 866 662 1235. That's 866 662 1235. National Alliance for Eating Disorders. Reach out. They have folks who can help and help people get into care. That's what I would recommend for helping an individual that's in crisis right now. But also what we need to answer Frances Haugen's call to action, what we need is for people to mobilize, communities to mobilize, to demand change. And that is what has changed quite a bit since she first testified. Communities rising up, lawmakers rising up in states across the country and in Congress, calling for action. And what we found, a recent poll that was done by colleagues of mine at Fair Play, another organization working in the social media space, they found that nearly 90% of Americans, and this is across the political aisle, whether we're talking about Republicans, independents, or Democrats, nearly 90% of Americans support government taking action to protect kids from these really dangerous practices of social media platforms. People want kids to be protected from what the social media platforms have been doing on our kids for years. And we're in a moment now where we could see major federal legislation go through with bipartisan support. And in particular, it's the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA for short, is legislation in Congress right now, support across the aisle. And as I just mentioned, Americans support this work. They want to see change happen. They want to see protections. KOSA is in Congress right now. It's got almost 50 senators have signed on, and that's unheard of to have that much support. And we're expecting it to come up for a vote in the Senate early in 2024, and then go straight over to the House of Representatives. What we need is for community members, and that's family members who care, individuals who care, to call your lawmakers, email your lawmakers and say, vote for KOSA, support KOSA. We want to see meaningful protections for kids in federal law. And that is the kind of change I think that Frances Haugen is looking for. And we can deliver that. We can deliver that in early 2024 if we all come together and mobilize to support KOSA in Congress.
Yeah. Fair Play for Kids is a wonderful organization. I just want to give them a shout out. Fairplayforkids.org is the website. I believe that this is going to happen in 2024. There are too many people pushing. Bryn, as you pointed out, everything we talk about, if it's eating disorders, if it's digital safety, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, these are bipartisan issues. These are issues everybody can and should and need to get behind. And what we have to do is urge them, as you did, contact your representatives. And I have people say to me, I don't even know who represents me. And I'm like, it's very simple. House.gov, Senate.gov. It'll tell you. Put in your zip code, write, call, put a stamp, old-fashioned way on a letter, deluge them. I do know, because I do work in Congress, they will address an issue if they get enough people talking about it. So we can't have that attitude, which a lot of the public has, nothing's going to happen. Or, I got a legislative aid. I said, no, there are records kept. We all have to step up. And as you pointed out, 90% want change, want protections. Now let's get into this big tech accountability. KOSA, K-O-S-A, everybody, Kids Online Safety Act. Also a reminder, I will have all of this information, all of the links, the hotline, everything will be in the body of this video. So everybody has the resources. Why do you think Congress, answer any way you see fit or don't, it's whatever you want to do, Bryn, they are slow. We are lighting that fire for the last couple of years over, several child safety or digital safety. They are slow to take on anything. I don't understand because we do have a lot of bipartisan support. What are they waiting for? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, we know big tech is big money.
It's
And we have
big.
a study. Oh yeah, big tech has more money than most nations in the world. They have so much money. And how do they get this money? It's from selling our attention with almost no restrictions on how much they can profit off of children or people of any age. My group Striped has a study coming out in just a couple of weeks where we were able to estimate how much money the platforms are making off of
Ooh.
American kids every single year. The number, nearly $11 billion is how much the big six social media platforms are making every year. That's not total. That is recurring profits every year off of children, people
Oh my.
younger than 18 years old. Massive, massive profits that they are making off of children. So what do they do with that money? They turn it around with lobbyists to flood Congress. They have been lobbying hard, hundreds and hundreds of lobbyists representing the social media platforms, been flooding Congress with their money and their deceptive claims, their lies to distract lawmakers and keep them off of the trail of social media platforms. But that's changed. And I would say Frances Haugen's whistleblower testimony has made a difference. And then the many groups, Fair Play, and a number of others that have come out with reports just so searing in what they're showing these platforms are doing to our children. That's why now we are on the cusp of being able to make historic change through Congress with bipartisan support for COSA, Kids Online Safety Act. We are in a position now to finally put some common sense controls on these platforms. So they have to put children first, protecting children first. That's all we want.
Let me ask you, I have to. What do you think about AI? It scares the life out of me, the artificial intelligence, just because we're trying to get a handle on what we're talking about, what's been happening. The internet basically born in 1996, and we've got the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, and people saying it's, the platforms, we're just a billboard or a newsstand, to break it down, to be very simple. I'm very afraid, Bryn, it's already happening. We see things behind the scenes. We're not controlling this. How are we ever, if they unleash fully this AI, do you have any thoughts on the artificial intelligence?
Oh my gosh, it certainly keeps me up at night.
Another paper for you to do, another another research
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, but we are seeing more attention in the federal government and state governments where they're really realizing, oh, we can't just sit around and dawdle for the next decade to figure out AI. We need to have safeguards in place now. What's encouraging is that other parts of the world are ahead of us, whether that's the UK, the United Kingdom, or the European Union. They've got better laws on the books about how to manage social media and AI. And so we have a place to look to see, okay, how are they doing it? What can we do better? And I know there's a lot of people working in around tech and in government to look at ways we can protect people and then just try to harness the power of AI for doing good, whether it's in medicine or public health or other areas. There's ways that AI can be helpful, but only if we have those safeguards in place first.
And also, I always explain, Bryn, people say to me, oh, if we could just go back when I was a kid, or that old excuse, I didn't grow up with the internet. Look, the online world is here to stay. I always teach them. It is not going away. So we have to learn, as you said, harness it for good. I mean, I don't want to give back the internet. I'm on it as you probably are. I'm looking up words every day. I'm researching. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I think a key thing is the education. Really teaching the adults about what is going on, getting them over these fears. I do a lot of that around the country. It's okay, ask questions. Almost more so, I've come to the conclusion, Bryn, of not the kids. We have to target the adults in the education and let them know what's going on, because we still, again, nobody's trying to shut down anybody's privacy or any of that stuff. This is about the safety of children, which I think everybody could get on board with. Yet we have what's going on, a little slow on the uptake. So I think what we have to always do is educate those adults. And what about the schools? Can you shed any light? Because they're also a little bit slow to talk about these issues. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, schools across the age range too. So I teach at a university. I'm at Harvard University, and we've certainly been talking a lot about we can't just hide or condemn all the generative AI, as it's called, like
Right.
ChatGPT and others. We know our students are already using it, and now our colleagues are using it more. But what people need to know and our students need to know is how do you use it ethically, responsibly, and to do good in the world? And that we have to teach that. We have to learn it ourselves as educators, and we have to teach people how to do that. So that is the responsibility of schools, universities, and a public health school like myself. And we've been working hard over the past many months to figure out how do we make sure we're leading our students toward having real competence and confidence in using generative AI, like a ChatGPT or the many other competitors out there, but using it responsibly, ethically, and to do good in the world.
I love that, to do good. I've got to hashtag that and start pushing that one out. I'm going to steal it from you. I'll give you credit though for that. If I made you the czar right now of eating disorders, let's just play a little game for a second. What's the one thing, like one fact, something where you think somebody would wake up or sit up in their chair and really take note? Because Bryn, we live in this society of, I like to call it, attention span of a gnat. Or I like to say the swipe. Everybody, they get bored, they swipe on their phones to the next thing. Give us one thing that'll make everybody go, oh, I've got to learn more. Oh, I've got to take action. What would you say to them? It's a tough one. I know I gave you a tough assignment.
Yeah. We need to take action together. It is not about individuals. It's not about individuals failing, whether mental health or dieting or any of that. Say no to the diets and say yes to change. Push back on all the weight stigma, the fat shaming. Say no to that and embrace people for who they are and the bodies that we all have. We need to do that through policy action. We have to change our communities. And that's where my message always ends with get involved in causes that we know will make a difference. COSA is a perfect example. Demand that we see change in how social media protects children, and that's going to make a difference for eating disorders and so many other issues that we care deeply about.
I love that. I was going to say to you one final thought, but that's kind of a final thought. But let me just ask you before we finish up, where do you see everything going? I'm very positive for 2024. I just like the way it sounds, 2024. People such as yourself, many other good people, the whole coalition, eating disorders. We've got the Fair Play involved with all of this. A lot of people, again, bipartisan, working hard, waking up. Where do you see everything going in 2024?
Well, what gives me hope is the young people we work with. We work with high school students, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who are dedicated to eating disorders prevention, but maybe even more importantly, dedicated to democracy and participating in our democracy for the good of all of our communities. When I work with the 15, 16-year-olds that say, I want to do good in my community, I'm going to learn how to work in government, with government, to make a healthier world, whether it's about an environment or preventing eating disorders or controlling social media, that is what gives me hope in 2024 and the future. So supporting kids is what we're all about.
I love that. And we have to, even today, at least I think, Bryn, the younger the better. I mean, age appropriate with what we're doing, because these kids are, they've got the devices and they're so savvy and smart, these kids, and we have to just start young and get them involved. And I use a hashtag a lot, community creates change, because the Warriors, we believe you start in your home and your community and build out from there. So we love everything you bring to the table. One thing I love and will urge again before we finish up, COSA, Kids Online Safety Act, all of the information will be in the body of this video. And I want everyone to follow Dr. Bryn Austin and the coalition. The website is eatingdisorderscoalition.org. Also learn more about Dr. Bryn Austin. Find out how you can join, how you can help, how you can mentor, how you can donate, whatever. Everybody can. And at least, Bryn, we believe in 2024 coming up, everybody must do something. We believe everybody can do something, the smallest thing to the largest thing. Everybody, we have a duty now. We live in a new environment, I think, a new country, a new world. We must all help. and give back a little bit. Thank you for this most important work you do. I do definitely want to talk to you again. There's so much eating disorders, mental health, the work you do. I love you shared some about what the kids are thinking. That's another program because I'm always interested in our future adults, what's going on with them. We need to educate our adults. We need to educate our kids, and we need to support children. So Dr. Bryn Austin, I'm going to call you our warrior for today. Actually, for the entire next week, I want to say happy holidays to you. Thank you so much for taking the time, for joining the Warriors today. I just know we will talk again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's an honor.